They ostracized and banished their son and brother from the house. He could have been kidnapped or froze to death. He was gaslighted by Lynn and forced to humiliate himself in front of his community by wearing a mascot suit to prove he wasn't bad luck. And he was forced to wear said suit at the beach and treated like a good luck charm, despite the fact he could have suffered from a heat stroke. No matter how many good moments they have, they are indefensible. Am I speaking in an alien language when I explain this to people? Hello everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're at right now. On September 23rd, 2023, I called out Mr. Sophic for his immature behavior in a video titled, Don't Decry People's Opinions, the first installment of what would later be known as my Call Them Out series. On November 4th of the same year, I made my first post calling out the same guy in my channel's community tab. Since then, I've been calling out individuals such as Michael509, Just Some Ordinary Dunce, and the tribal tars for the toxic scum that they are. Nevertheless, something has recently been bothering me. What might that be, you may ask? Based on the title alone, you can take a solid guess at what it is. Does anyone feel toxic fan is an overused label? Terms like Saint Lincoln and Lincoln fan brats have been used by many to dismiss criticism of Lincoln being a punching bag in the loud house. They do this because they felt the need to defend a certain group of siblings, particularly Lynn Jr, whom they believe to be a victim of undeserved hate. So they made up lies in a desperate attempt to slander people with legitimate criticisms, presumably laughing like supervillains. They have a warped mindset that if you're constantly criticizing episodes of TLH and the show's characters, or expressing satisfaction when they receive their well-deserved comeuppance, you deserve to be shamed and demonized for it. Why is this the case? It's because they want to lash out at them and openly express their insecurities about their sacred cow being rightfully hated, or to shift the blame to anyone but her, and to some extent, her sisters and parents. So I decided to debunk the worst defenses people use to defend these characters, and downplay the seriousness of these episodes. So without further ado,
do you want to come play?
Whenever somebody says, "You just don't understand Lynn Jr.'s character," what they're really saying is, she's supposed to be a punk. And you're wrong for pointing out how she's an irritating little twat, despite what some morons would have you believe. Criticizing a character is not the same as harassing the people playing them. I want to make it crystal clear that the only characters I hated in No Such Luck were LJ, Lola, and the parents. The rest I was disappointed in, except for Lincoln of course. By now you know the junior crybabies are negative influences. And you know it's bad when they are willing to turn against former fans of their sacred cow. Perhaps the worst of them all is none other than the infamous Tyler Collins, also known as Blue Spider 17. He doesn't take it kindly when you criticize the Louse sisters in any way or any character he so happens to like, and demands that people get over episodes like Brawl in the Family, No Such Luck, and Kings of the Con, much like a certain other user. How pathetic do you have to be to make art of your self-insert in OCs, or make edits of characters defending them from their haters every time you say hate art of them? He thinks making rewrites of said notorious episodes is toxic, much like a certain other user. Mr. Widow Zero said it well. Tyler Collins thinks he's a hero, but in reality, he's a white knight of the worst kind, even mocking us in doing so, and putting PLC the CD in his toxic fans list just because he made a fanfiction he didn't like. And his reasons for not liking said fanfic are very shitty if you think about it. When I said he was a Saul Goodman wannabe in the sense of a family, I pretty much meant it. Blue Spider 17 screams toxic positivity harder than anyone I have ever called out. And need I even mention that he doesn't take criticism towards him very well? How would Jacob C. from Far Cry 5 describe him?
You're not a hero. You are a tool.
The cult of BS17 is going to be so pissed when they see this. Oh my gosh. Putting aside that horrible art that misrepresents her justified detractors, if you played a role in getting your own flesh and blood banished from their home, you lost the right to mock people who are rightfully upset. Speaking of art that misrepresents critics of characters, here's one by MCCTF 1999 that Sam Draw Stuff 123 posted on his DeviantArt account. Time for a little commentary.
Does this literally mean people will see me as a monster?
Lori, I don't see you as a monster. Perhaps we treated you too harshly in the first season. That's not to say it wasn't warranted.
Dude, this is just not cool.
You know what else isn't cool? You and your sisters acting like pieces of shit toward your brother.
Gasp.
Indeed.
Was I really mean and too wild on Lincoln?
What do you think?
What kind of monster makes toxic heart of us?
You call them monsters? Look in the mirror, you fucking c***. I was gonna let this go until I saw these lovely comments from him.
You again? Get your toxic, hateful ass out of my face.
Apparently, wanting Lincoln to be an only kid after NSL means you're toxic and hateful now. At least according to this spiteful idiot. Every time someone talks about the universally despised episode, it's only a matter of time before snowflakes arrive and ruin everything because they're scared of the concept of notorious episodes being talked about years or even decades after they aired. Every single dipshit who had anything to do with the deletion of the original post about a what-if scenario for No Such Luck should be ashamed of themselves. I ain't gonna bullshit ya. Super Mario Kid 2005 is like that one little shit who gets on your nerves and you just want to punch them into another universe so they can be someone else's problem. I hate you.
Who could think of such a horrible thing?
Just Some Ordinary Dude is a whiny man-child. That should have been obvious from the start. Much like Michael 509, he is an advocate for toxic positivity.
I want to create a new status quo where we can be rational, level-headed people, and there doesn't have to be all this drama and toxicity everywhere. You know, all this hate art and hate fanfics and stuff, it doesn't have to exist so prominently.
I find it so funny that he's telling us to grow up when he's the one who refuses to do so whenever he sees hate art and hate fanfictions featuring his precious Stinklin. He's a bigger man-child than anyone he projects his behavior into. His demeanor is that of a pouty child. From having unrealistic expectations,
it would just be nice, be able to finally move on past all this No Such Luck hate, Yeah. I think that's fair enough, I mean, obviously some people say it's just easier to ignore it, but, it shouldn't be there, really.
I mean, it's like, we're still at this point, all these years later. I'm going to be honest, I just want it to get to a point where, it never existed in the first place.
To getting triggered whenever somebody provides valid critiques of Lynn Jr. as a character. The only thing that can make things worse is if a junior crybaby corrects this butthurt douchebag. Oh, for fuck's sake. All this screams, stop hating on Lynn Jr., oh please! There are only so many times you could do this specific thing before it grows suspicious. Just Some Ordinary Dude doesn't portray Stinklin in a positive light because he actually cares about the character. He's only doing it because he feels uncomfortable with the negative reception she's been receiving, and we can't fucking have that now, can we? If you want to see LJ getting one-upped or hurt, whether it be for laughs or satisfaction, that's blasphemy according to him. Just Some Ordinary Dude urges us to be reasonable, just like Lincoln pleaded with his family in No Such Luck. Which is fucking ironic since they weren't being reasonable at all in that fiasco. Do I need to play a clip from the episode again?
Come on, you guys, be reasonable!
You're bad luck, Lincoln! You can't come!
Take the L, Muppet. And here comes the defense that this is all selective memory. Fuck off with that shit, bro.
Forget the majority of moments where their relationship is portrayed in a positive light. Let's just dwell on the few exceptions where it seems he is hated by them.
This argument does not work because it's not like the Loud sisters were just teasing Lincoln or wanted to teach him a lesson when all he wanted was peace and quiet, or getting themselves kicked out of the supermarket by goofing off instead of helping their brother shop like they promised to, and he ends up getting blamed for it. No! They ostracized and banished their son and brother from the house. He could have been kidnapped or froze to death. He was gaslighted by Stinklin and forced to humiliate himself in front of his community by wearing a mascot suit to prove he wasn't bad luck. And he was forced to wear said suit at the beach and treated like a good luck charm, despite the fact he could have suffered from a heat stroke. No matter how many good moments they have, they are indefensible. Am I speaking in an alien language when I explain this to people? You know what's funny? I didn't need to make a rebuttal. Thunder already did it for me. And before you ask, I'm not saying you can no longer enjoy the Louse's characters when they're shown in a positive light. Of course you can. I know I do. But you should not use these moments to downplay the negative ones, like certain other users, especially one that warrants condemnation. When I made a video calling out Michael 519 for his toxicity, he must have thought it was a smart move to fabricate lies about me in a desperate attempt to discredit my criticisms. I just love that he brings up the fact that I insulted him when he does exactly that, acting condescending towards people talking about NSL years later, and those with valid criticisms of her character. And when I provided counter-arguments to his response, this was his reply.
Okay then, have fun.
At least Mr. Sofake made an attempt to defend himself and justify his actions. He miserably failed, but at least there was an attempt. Mikey didn't even try. Are you seriously that prideful that you refuse to defend yourself even when the truth is staring you right in the face? You've got an ego bigger than Megamind's giant blue head. And that was not a compliment. Anyway, she made a blog defending her precious Stinklin. Of course, there's the part where she denies that her sacred cow is a bully, ignoring the fact that Scold exposes her as a liar. And the part where she expresses her insecurities about LJ being rightfully hated. But I want to focus on two major things wrong with it. First of all, are you trying to use scare quotes or something?
What are you saying?
Are you trying to tell us that she didn't actually force him to attend her softball game? But then she backpedals and says,
threatening him with a bat was obviously wrong, and there's no justification for that.
Which is the same thing as forcing someone to attend your game. Like, thanks for admitting it! You're making my job really easy here! Secondly, if you're gonna defend a character in an episode as infamous as No Such Luck, there should not be a but in that sentence. WTF proceeds to whine about Lenny not getting enough hate for what she did and don't forget about me. While it is true that Lenny nearly ruining Lori's future is totes not nice, the reason she isn't hated that much is probably because she is way more likable than Lynn Jr. could ever hope to be, and her likability feels earned, unlike Stinklin whose likability is forced. Lenny is the sweetest loud after all. That's not how it works, Mike. Let me ask you something. How would you like to be kicked out of the house and sleep outside for a full night with no pillow or blanket and wearing nothing but pajamas? That's the one thing people fail to consider, or worse, don't care about every time they say, Lincoln got what he deserved, putting themselves in someone else's shoes. Maybe you should try wearing a squirrel suit and see how it feels to be the unlucky one. This argument is so absurd that whether or not they're defending Lynn Jr. as a character is a moot point. I'm gosh damn sick of it. Yeah, everyone was responsible in No Such Luck. It was Lincoln who managed to convince his family that he was best. I watched a handful of reviews by Steam T-Read WK thanks to a friend of mine, and I liked some of them. However, I 100% disagree with him when he said,
no one ever seems to talk about the root of the problem. Who made these people think and act the way they did? Lincoln! Yes, Lincoln is the source of his own problems in this episode and therefore a villain in his own right. Make no mistake, I'm not letting the rest of the family off the hook. Not inviting him to other family activities is one thing, but selling off his bedroom furniture and keeping him outside is crossing the line, and there's no defending that. But on the other hand, Lincoln knew exactly what he was doing. He was going around to everyone and insisting he was going to cause problems for them. Again, no common sense from characters you would think would be more logical, like the parents and Lisa. But this kid must have done some pretty hardcore convincing to whip his entire family into a paranoid state of mind to effectively banish him from their social lives. He even says, quote, I guess I brought this on myself. Look, I understand why he did what he did. He wanted some personal time for himself. Who doesn't? Living with that many people and going to all those activities, anyone would want to open up their schedules for some one-on-one time with themselves. But like Lori said, this family supports each other. She has a point, although I'm not sure how Lincoln managed to avoid going to all of Lynn's previous games. Regardless, you do feel bad for him because he just wanted to stay home and enjoy a little peace and quiet. But rather than talk to his family about how he was feeling, he planted doubt in everyone's heads about the kind of bad luck he could bring. He's a victim of circumstance at the beginning, knowingly screws with the heads of his family for his initial goal of alone time, and then becomes a victim of his own crimes. While fans are very vocal about the family being horrible, no one ever talks about Lincoln being the enabler of their actions and how he caused his own problems. Again, his family is more wrong in their actions, and Lincoln does become the victim. But he let his mind games go on for as long as he wanted, and he became the victim through his own actions by not thinking his plan all the way through. He could have stopped it at any time before it reached extreme levels of what you could technically call child abuse, but his desire for alone time was just too much.
As you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, that is called victim blaming. I don't give a f that he said he brought it upon himself. That just makes you sound insensitive, good sir. Did Lincoln tell his family to make him a pariah in his own household? Did he hold them at gunpoint to lock him out of the house? The answer to both of these questions is no. This one comment by Gleaming Roses annihilates his argument, making this review somewhat repulsive. Peggies don't like victim blamers. Believe it.
He brought it to himself. Stinkin' prove that he's a jinx.
That's sad. The Junior Crybabies are also guilty of victim blaming, but far worse.
She threatened to beat Lincoln up with a baseball bat and then contributed heavily to getting him locked out of the house, even if he did do some of it himself.
You're telling me that the issue wasn't the fact that what his family did to him was illegal. It was because we wouldn't listen to reason. It's because we're oversensitive dummies who refuse to let go of things that happened years ago. It's because we're dumb if we still whine about them years later. It's because we're overgrown man-children who get overly emotional about everything that the show does slightly wrong. You truly have to be a just an ordinary dude to have that kind of mindset. And yes, for the record, f that bloke for shifting the blame onto you instead of NSL like he was supposed to. He is willing to go as far as to throw people who had the correct reaction to these episodes under the bus, claiming they did more damage to the show than the characters and episodes themselves. Just an ordinary dude twists the narrative and tries to gaslight you into thinking that you are the problem. He thinks people who consider some of the Loud sisters, if not all of them, to be bad have a toxic mindset, and that making fanfictions based on said episodes is a toxic trend that causes more harm than good, which is nothing short of a gross generalization. Have you considered that maybe there's a reason why they make these fanfictions and fan art? Because they're frustrated with their characterization and how mean-spirited these episodes were? Nah, it's because they're dumbasses who are the reason the Loud House fandom is one of the most toxic fandoms ever. It's because they need to grow up and move on from them. Remember when I rebuked him in the third installment of my Call Them Out series when he said,
If the reaction was more reasonable and level-headed, things would be better.
No, just an ordinary dude. You can't blame anyone for not being level-headed over something this seriously messed up. And you certainly can't reason with negligence and abuse.
You f***ing donkey!
Look, maybe you're getting a bit out of hand with your overreaction here.
Oh, so that's what we're doing? We're overreacting to this shit? Wow, that's some grade A logic.
You need to just calm down and actually look at this in a whole different way.
You mean looking at this with anything other than shock and outrage? Because those are the morally correct responses to something like this.
And realise it's not as bad as you think, and if anything, you're making it worse.
Hey guys, maybe we were all too hard on Chicken Little. Sure, the townspeople were jerks, and Buck Cluck was a neglectful father who allegedly beats his own kid. But it was just one movie.
99% of the damage was caused by the overreaction of our fanbase to these bad episodes. The bad episodes themselves Brawl and NSL and all that lot, they caused 1% of the damage. And if people would have just, said these are bad episodes and just said, okay, that was a one-off bad episode or a few one-off bad episodes. Most cartoons have them, but they just move on.
Stop trying to downplay NSL as a minor inconvenience, motherfucker. You and I both know that if this happened in real life, things would have ended completely differently. He brings up Talon Out from the Powerpuff Girls as an example of an episode the fandom moved on from, which is a shitty false equivalence. That episode doesn't show a kid being kicked out of the house by their family and forced to sleep outside all night because of their supposed bad luck. Despite rebuking people like SteamTWK, my main focus was on the Junior Crybabies. They give Lynn Jr fans, even good ones, a bad name. And it's a shame that these actual toxic fans behave the way they do. Ultimately, that's what being a Junior Crybaby does to you. It makes you dogmatic, insecure, manipulative, deceitful, insufferable, condescending, hypersensitive, and worst of all, a petty jackass. Just some ordinary dunce. This is my message. And this goes for every single Junior Crybaby out there. Maybe you should look at fanfics based on episodes such as No Such Luck in a totally different way and realize they're not as bad as you think. And if anything, you're making them worse. You owe Racer Cinema Arts an apology for deceiving him, and I had to correct him as a result. Better yet, you owe everyone, including Lincoln himself by the way, an apology for downplaying the severity of the loud sins against her son and brother by dismissing them as just a few exceptions. Try telling that to someone who went through the same thing, and let me know how that goes for you. And one more thing.
Stop whining like a little bitch.
Every time you see supposed hate art and fanfictions featuring the Loud Sisters, especially Lynn Jr., and stop throwing fans, toxic or not, under the bus and use them as a scapegoat for the show's decline in quality, like the pathetic coward that you are. And stop getting into fits of rage whenever you see characters you like being hated more than others, or when you come across art you don't like while being a dick about it. What are you, a Vincent Sovek 3.0? Just listen straight from the horse's mouth.
So much of their audience is contrived of overgrown man-children who get overly emotional about everything that the show does slightly wrong.
So much of their audience is contrived of overgrown man-children who get overly emotional about everything that the show does slightly wrong. So much of their audience is contrived of overgrown man-children who get overly emotional about everything that the show does slightly wrong.
So, according to what you just said, I guess that makes people who may have experienced trauma from these episodes overgrown man-children. You know what I say to that?
Go f*** yourself.
Grow a spine and stop acting so unbelievably gosh damn sensitive towards the Stinklin hatedom, the so-called hate art and fanfictions made of her, people wanting to see her get her comeuppance, and discussions about bad episodes years after they came out. If you can't handle people still talking about episodes such as Brawl in the Family and No Such Luck years after they came out, you need to grow up, or at the very least reevaluate what media criticism means to you. Because anyone who demands we should move on from them is the very reason why this needs to keep happening. Like it or not, that's the fact of life. The worst episodes of TLH, and these two in particular, will continue to be criticized well into the future for how poorly written and mean-spirited they were, regardless of what snowflakes on the internet would prefer. No, stop. Shut your mouth if you're just gonna say, it's just to get over it. Every time people have discussions about No Such Luck, or speaking negatively about Stinklin in any way. Because the moment somebody says she's the worst sister in any piece of media, you immediately enter into a fit of rage and start shouting "you're wrong" at the top of your lungs. This is not about fanfictions based on bad episodes being a toxic trend, or people being butthurt idiots who can't comprehend the fact that shows are gonna have bad episodes every now and then, and you know it. This is about your inability to suck up criticism towards her sacred cow, a character you think is a victim of undeserved hate. You're just so unbelievably gosh damn sensitive to seeing what you consider hate art or hate fanfictions, or being told that certain characters are pieces of shit that you will get on whatever platform you use to express your insecurities, while attempting to silence anyone with legit criticisms and acting condescending in the process. But you know what? If I'm wrong about you, if my criticism is misplaced, then I'll give you a chance to prove me wrong. Go on, try. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my rant. I wanted to finish this episode's production in time for the Loud House's 9th anniversary, but oh well. If you want to watch more episodes from my channel, I have a whole playlist to keep you occupied. I hope you enjoy them. Other than that, I would like to hear your thoughts on my arguments and points. Did you agree with all of them, or were there any you disagreed with? Let me know in the comment section. Until next time, this is Briox, and I'm out. Take care, everyone.